Hi, thanks a lot for having me. I started out as a software engineer, and then I ended up being at McKinsey because I wanted to understand business. Now I'm kind of at the intersection between the two. What I want to do today is bring the conversations together that we've been having around how really can we drive business impact, be at the center of innovation if we are data scientists, if we are software engineer. How can we actually be an agile organization through modern engineering? So let me share some experiences with you that we've seen from many clients around the world. What you're seeing on this chart is how the role of technology has changed. In the past, it used all to be about business process enablement, operational stability. Now, if you're going forward, these things are still important, but they're kind of a given. What people are worried and care about now is innovation and speed and enabling partnerships and ecosystems. Unfortunately, this isn't that easy. We want to be a bank that launches new businesses. We want to do AI and big data. We want to do full-scale process automation. We want to have lots of models running in production at scale. We want to have ModOps, but unfortunately, we are stuck with rigid IT processes. We are stuck with siloed and flexible organizational structures. We are stuck with monolithic IT systems. This is the situation that in truth almost any big company faces today. Unless you grew up as a digital native like a Google or an Ant Financial, you will be in this situation. And so the real question is around how do we change this? How do we move from a place where it's difficult, it's tiresome, it's burdensome to do DevOps because you need to get all of these approvals, to a place where you can spin up your machines, where you can pull the data that you need? How do you get there? Now, first of all, this is all about business impact. And the lesson today, I think, for many of the tech folks in this room is articulate the value of what you do to business, because that's the way that you will get the budgets. That's the way that you will get the time that it takes you to do automated testing instead of just delivering features for the next product. What you see in here is how digital natives have used technology to improve efficiency. China is very much leading on this right now, particularly on the AI thing. So Toutiao, you'll all be familiar with lots of these AI-enabled stories, the success of the video products that they have launched, eKYC, voice recognition, which is coming to Thailand now as well. Really interesting case is WeBank, one of the banking subsidiaries of Tencent, who has replaced a large contact center by a small number of people leveraged by AI chatbots to a 50 times efficiency increase. That's the kind of impact that will get US IT folks' budgets. Now, we are changing the way of the IT organization works. We're moving from an traditional IT organization where it was mostly around delivery and security to something where it's also about driving innovation. We're moving from a world where most of the effort was really spent on running the bank, running the organization, to one where the majority of effort is spent on building new things, on innovating, on creating business value. We're moving from a world where we increasingly want to shape our own technology vision, from a world where we've outsourced everything to lots of different vendors, from India to Vietnam to the US to China, to one where we want to integrate and have increasingly core capabilities in-house. We're moving from a world where instead of having very high infrastructure complexity, we want to have a mix of internal systems, but also use the cloud much more in the future. And we want to move away from a world where there is walls. Not only walls between technology and operations or technology and design, but where the walls between business and technology are coming down. That is really what Agile is about. Now to get there, there's 10 shifts that are really required for large organizations. And I will take a couple of these and talk through examples of the kind of client work that I've been involved in to share with you some learnings. The first element is around digitizing the business. We need to digitize the business in ways that makes technology more flexible, that reduces technical debt, that lets us invest into the future while delivering concrete business outcomes all the time. We also need to build out the underlying IT estate, move to data and AI build-out, a huge lever around productivity. And one of the reasons that particularly in financial services, so many fintechs are attacking banks successfully when it comes, for example, to lending. Move to a core system renewal, secure cloud-based infrastructure. Big topic in Thailand now that the PDPA is going to be launched will be around enabling new data use cases on anonymized data. Lastly, it's around accelerating delivery. Agile really means agile between business and technology. Creating a way of working that allows us to deliver valuable things to market faster and perpetual evolution of our architecture. Let me talk through a couple of examples of how this gets done in practice. The first lever is around digitizing. Digitizing where the real value is. This can have significant impact. Take in customer journeys like, for example, an SME loan application or a consumer finance application and make them fully digital. Not only increases revenues, improves conversion rates, but it also very significantly reduces costs. How do you do this? You first of all start identifying the big journeys in the business that really matter. Usually, in most businesses, you will find that about 20 journeys create 75 to 80% of the business value, because that's where your cost sits, that is where your revenues and your conversion rates are. You start with a zero-based design of this process. So if you take the mindset of an Ant Financial, how would you create this journey today? You start with the perspective of the customers. What are their pain points in market? And then you get business, tech, design together in one room to figure out what can I build that really drives this value. How do I start with the first version, a prototype, get it into market fast, and then iterate and continuously release on top of this? Data and AI is very much at the core of this. We've talked a lot around how data is ambient now. We've talked about how ModOps, and some of the colleagues will share later what KBTG is doing on this topic, will allow us to really drive insights from data. But again, it comes back to business value. The great data scientist, if I can add to the earlier presentation, for me also has a translation skill. If you can become a great data scientist who also has domain expertise and can identify between the business value that your analysis and that your models will provide and how this will actually help to uncover use cases, drive value from these, then that's an amazing skill set to have. It's also very rare because you need to be a good technical person, you need to have good business sense, you need to have domain knowledge, and you need to be a cross-functional collaborator. Whatever we have seen in our experiences, that it's much more than the models, though. Models are useless if the insights are not put into rapid action. So with putting models in practice also comes rolling them out, changing the processes and the ways that insights from data drives actions, and then rapid iterations from top of these. That's what makes our M's in the field much more productive. That's what increases conversion rates. That is what improves digital marketing effectiveness. The biggest lever of all of this is what we call working in digital garages. This is a picture of one of my clients in China, and I'll just explain what really happened here. So what you have in this room, this is a client who set up a new digital bank, which we launched in around 9 months from zero to market. We got a team of around 70 people together. We went to the back office, so all the business people moved in with technology. That's where the space was, and anyways, tech is most important if you want to launch a digital bank. We created squads, cross-functional squads, where the business people, the product owners, the designers all sit together. We used a lot of visual management, as you see around, from creating common user journeys, visualization of the user experience that was the focal point of explaining to everybody what's really happening, to putting in place a lot of tooling, Confluence, Jira, lots of testing tools that allow you to deliver to market faster. That's powerful. It's powerful because it allows you to deliver faster. It's powerful because you can get feedback from customers faster and then release iterations of your product that improve performance. So garages are a way for me to go because the real way to get agile is to get people together, break the barriers between technology and business and design and ops, and really have people work together as one team that aligns and delivers value against concrete business streams. Now, to scale this up and to become a fully agile organization, we, however, need to have both dynamic capability and a stable backbone. What does this mean? Dynamic capability is the ability to run these garages, to rapidly adjust your strategy, to have multiple garages that align their business roadmaps so you can do capacity planning. It is cross-functional teams where you get people across business, technology to work together, be it co-located on-site or be it in distributed agile. It's to have a process in place that allows fast, iterative ways of working, of deployment. It's to have people who have adopted the mindset and the culture of working in agile. And it is to have your technology stack continuously improved. However, this will run into lots of problems unless you're also able to address the backbone. The stable backbone that runs allows you to run able is that stable infrastructure that allows you to run things without breaking them all the time. It is the DevOps capabilities that you need to set up. It's the talent processes that you need, the career aspirations for people in agile organization. It is overcoming cultural challenges of, for example, hierarchy when it comes to creating autonomous, self-driving agile teams. That stable backbone and a common understanding of how to do agile is what really ultimately allows an organization to operate at speed. Now, an organization which actually has done this quite well is ING. ING transformed over the last couple of years from a traditional bank to a company that has Agile at the core. So in their headquarters, essentially, they organize themselves along tribes. There's tribes that are focused against the experience, against the customers, so retail banking, for example. There's other tribes which are focused against underlying product components, be it like mortgages or home purchasing journeys. There's enabling tribes. Analytics is a very crucial of these enabling tribes. Creating a tribe who has internal customers around creating a place where your data sits, the ability for data science to access that data, the clarity of where that data actually sits, who needs to approve to get access to it, and then how do you make use of it to drive business value. There's enabling tribes around omnichannel experience. So for example, the ability to, as the world is increasingly online and offline all the time, to switch between channels. And then there are centers of expertise, be it around credit or communications or pricing. That is a new way of working because it realigns organizations much more against concrete business outcomes and away from classical functional silos that impede a fast way of working. Now, to achieve this, there is an underlying skill that you need to build in modernizing the IT estate. We have talked about this already a lot before, so I won't go into too much detail now. But yes, continuous delivery is important, automated testing is important, modularizing your architecture over time is important, investing in next generation infrastructure is important. Now, there will not be many people, I think, in this room who disagree with any of these things being important. The reason is they still don't really happen that often. There's a few reasons for this. First of all, of course, talent who knows this is rare. But there's an even bigger reason, which is that there's never time for it. I'm a firm believer that you can't only do these things as big projects. You need to do them on a continuous basis. And so if as an IT shop, you're kind of stuck in delivering too many projects all the time, how will you ever find the time to invest in to build automated testing or in refactoring your existing architectures? If I may use an analogy, I tend to think of software development in this process, and this is how I explain it also to business people, as a factory. Business wants to produce cars. Quite often in business, you find lots of stakeholders who want to produce lots of cars of their own vision. Some people want big cars, some people want cheap, some people want racing cars, and all of them are important all the time. So what ends up happening is our factory, our software delivery factory produces lots of cars, and that's the focus. Quite often, we do not have sufficient time to invest into building and improving our factory. At times, because there's urgency, we need to get a new project to market, we need to get a new car out to market fast, we will just set up a new production line, we'll set up a new factory, we'll duplicate our infrastructure, we'll create 2 ESBs instead of 1. We will create a new system where we don't necessarily would need to just because it's the easier and faster way to do at the time. But rarely ever is there then budget or time or resource allocation to continuously invest in improving things. And that is really the underlying mindset shift that needs to happen when business and technology work together. How do we both deliver business value while also continuously investing in our software and tech delivery capabilities that allow us to be agile over time? There's multiple ways of doing this and a couple of critical lessons that I have learned. The first one is for technology to actually demonstrate to the business sponsors who approve the budgets and to give the demand of how investing into the factory will improve business outcomes. So if you can have a conversation with your business sponsors around your software delivery process and where the timelines in that sit that actually makes you slow and where the work sits in that, then you can have a good conversation around getting funding and getting budgets and getting buy-in for improving that. Giving some examples. Typically, if you think about software delivery in a bank, there's a big breakage point around the whole needs gathering requirements definition. That happens because business and IT don't sit in the same place. IT isn't really aligned against concrete business outcomes, like in the garages example that I mentioned. It's much more project-based. So what happens is that business needs to get very, very specific at what they actually want to build, which means they over-specify and they typically ask for far too many things without actually knowing if they create value. So you end up with a big requirement document, lots of requirements, many of whom actually nobody might need. Right? You might want to create a better UI, maybe doesn't even improve your conversion rate, but creates a heck of a lot of work for the tech guys. So first thing is really around this needs gathering, right? This is broken if tech and business can't talk together. Now, to enable that effective tech conversation, you need to have technologists who are aligned against business purposes, because you need to have context. It's very difficult to do this if everything is outsourced, because then nobody actually has context on what it takes to build something. There is a second breakage point in here, which is quite often around development to testing. That is because in many organizations, testing is still highly manual. If you need to touch a lot of systems to put anything into market, and all of these systems are really monolith, they're not very modular, and you don't have any automated testing in place, you will have lots of breakage points. So it's quite common for organizations to spend half of their time on testing. If, however, you look at best-in-class organization, digital natives, then the manual testing in terms of FTE hours on a project would be more like 10-15% of the time. So breaking that linkage point between manual testing by putting in place and investing into more automated testing, more modularity, reducing complexity, will over time significantly help reduce the time it takes to get to market. And then you come here, and again, there's lots of complexities here, usually around testing environments, production requirements, the ability to even push things into production, tends to be also, again, separated. So that's where all DevOps comes together. Now, to do all of these things together, because you need to do them together to really have impact, you need to convince business that it creates business value. And how do you create business value? Well, for example, the lead time to deploy is a big one. If you can link the improvement in your digital marketing efforts to lead time to deploy, better conversion rates because you have faster delivery of new software products into market, then that will allow you to demonstrate business value. It also, over time, will allow you to significantly reduce cost. Now, we need to measure things. As software engineers, it's really up to us to measure things. It's up to us to explain to business what we are doing in ways that business understands, so business can give us the funding and the support that they're often willing to give to us to make things work and make technology better. My recommendation quite often is if you operate in these garages, you have continuous value streams, continuous projects that you deliver against, make sure a big part of your backlog is continuous technology improvement. It will vary over time, but let's invest in not only building features, but also continuously make the underlying technology better. The lessons learned, hence, are, first of all, if you're a business person in this room, you're in the right place, you're getting familiar with technology. This is really important. And I've also seen a lot of CEOs actually wanting to understand technology a lot more than they did in the past. Vice versa, the same thing applies. If you're a technologist, understand business. Learn from the product owners on your team. Learn from the domain experts. If you're a data scientist, become a translator who not only can create a great model, but also identify how this model will drive use cases and really add value. Secondly, start with customer journeys where the business value is, because business people are excited about impact. They're excited about new products that launch. They're excited about revenues. They're excited about customer acquisition. So if we can link tech modernization into customer journeys that create business value and demonstrate that value through faster releases to market, by building things customers love, by having product journeys that create higher conversions, higher assets as a bank, then that really will drive excitement and also funding. Thirdly, over time, fix architectural complexity. This is for many banks a long-term project. If you look at the leaders in this space in Asia, like a DBS or a CBA, they have often spent 3, 4, 5 years on this over time, continuously investing. Fourthly, it's a multidimensional problem. A lot of things need to come together, which is why it makes sense to focus on a couple of business journeys to get started. Then create a culture that values technology. This is a real shift I see many, many banks making at the moment. We value technology much more. It's not boring anymore. It's not the back-end stuff anymore. Like, coming back to a personal story, when I joined McKinsey, I didn't want to join the tech team at the time because I thought tech was boring. I had done it. Now tech is cool again. So be a business person that loves tech and be a tech person that loves business, and prepare for a longer journey. This is also a big change in mindset, and that's where we link it back to each individual one of us. Agile is a mind shift change. Agile means many different things to many different people. What it means to me is just a faster, more iterative way of working that gets things out to market that people love much faster. Now, what does this mean for each of us as an individual? Particularly in a culture that tends to value hierarchy, it's important of how we think about hierarchy in an agile context. To the teammates that we give jobs to, but also ourselves when we are willing to speak up, when we need to escalate, when we need to go to the boss. So the first big shift is around, I focus just on doing my tasks, to making the team successful. Agile is all about making the team successful. That's why it helps to work in a garage, because we all tend to associate with the people we sit with. We are closest to the people we spend most time with. So no matter where people sit, as long as you can get them in the same room, you create an energized working atmosphere, they will start to bond. You make the team successful. In a digital world, that means you make a team that consists of product people and business people and designers and technologists and DevOps people and data scientists and data engineers together successful. The second one is a shift away from, I'm very anxious to take risks, to one where I actually stand up and own the problem. That's the spirit, right? Like it's this daily stand-up. You take a problem, you get it solved, you own the solution to it, and you get it done. It is also one, particularly for leaders, where we encourage every voice to speak up. The Agile concept also helps here. Whole team comes together, let everybody speak up, let all voices heard. And as a manager, it is a big mind shift change. It is one away from I manage and I direct, I know everything, the team executes, to one where I start empowering and coaching. This is particularly important, I think, in Thailand, as we have many, many junior colleagues and not that many experienced mid-level executives yet. But to become an Agile leader, how can you empower and coach your own teammates to take up more responsibility? If you can achieve that, you will be well prepared as a digital leader of the future. Thank you very much for having me. Very much enjoyed the privilege of being here. I think KBank and KBTG are on an amazing journey in going beyond Agile across all dimensions, and it was fantastic to be here. Scan the QR code if you're interested. That's one of our recent articles around how the journey to an Agile organization works. Thank you.